The truth that seems to keep coming to the surface when it comes to everything from pharmaceuticals to big farming to geopolitics to the military industrial complex, the truth that seems to be common to all of them is that there's some sort of overarching cabal of secret government people who are all working in conjunction against the American people. That is just flatly wrong. Frankly speaking, the government is barely competent enough to keep the wheels on the bus from falling off day to day. And I think that we've seen that multiple times, right? You saw that during the COVID crisis. You see it every 4 years during the presidential election season. You saw it during the Syrian war, the Libyan war. You saw it when Ukraine invaded Russia. You saw it in our withdrawal from Afghanistan. And it goes all the way back to the Korean War, the Vietnam War, civil rights movements. The federal government is not a well-oiled machine. It's a inherently inefficient, poorly communicative, and confused robot. Like, that left hand very rarely knows what the right hand is doing, let alone having any concept that there are feet or toes or nose included in the overall organism, right? So I want to start by making sure people understand, if you are holding on to a belief set that there's some kind of shadow government or secret government or deep state that's driving some sort of agenda to keep you unhealthy, that's not true. If it is true, it's the best kept secret that the federal government has ever had ever in its life.
Well, you mentioned that the federal government isn't a well-oiled machine, but a lot of people look at these companies, let's talk about big pharma with record profits, and they don't have the same constraints as the federal government. So their feeling is, okay, maybe our federal government can't get everything together and the left hand doesn't know what the right hand is doing. But what about corporate espionage? What about corporate manipulation? What about the drive for corporate profit as a vehicle to keep things status quo and prevent people from thinking for themselves?
Now you're moving into the direction of the truth, right? Now you're actually being able to enunciate what we call objective reasoning when it comes to understanding what's really happening. So now that we can let go of the idea that there's some sort of organized nationwide effort against the American people, we can let that go, and that allows us to dig deeper into the corporate side of things. Because you're exactly right. Corporations are recognized through the lens of the federal government as individuals. That's important to understand. You have rights as an individual American citizen. Everybody who's an American citizen listening has individual rights. In the eyes of the government, a corporation also has the same individual rights as any single person. So McDonald's is essentially like an American citizen, and United Healthcare is like an American citizen. CVS, Walgreens, you name it, big pharma companies from Johnson & Johnson and beyond, they're single entities. So they're treated with all the same privacy laws, data control laws, tax laws that you and I have. So if a rich person can get out of paying taxes, guess what a rich company can also do, right? And if a rich person can say that their affair is kept private, guess what a company can do? It can keep all of their corruption private and claim it as a privacy issue, a personal privacy issue. Because in the eyes of the law, a company is the same thing as an individual. That makes it so that a company, it's in the company's best interest to be very efficient, where the federal government's best interest is to be inefficient. So now you start having an opportunity where companies can create anything from tobacco to alcohol to cannabis on into actual life-saving drugs like the treatment for AIDS, treatments for diabetes, treatments for polio. These are all things that companies can now treat as essentially privacy issues, as their own independent property. Even if it is open source or it can be made into a generic, the original code can still belong to them, just like your ideas belong to you and your copyright belongs to you and your IP belongs to you.